Who else would you rather have on your TV screen than me, myself, and I? Please let me reveal and take pride in all the things I say and my presence. But it's not by my power, but of course it's by the Almighty that has made me here and brought me here thus far. While my colleagues will continue to ponder and wonder what's happening, I am happy to tell you that this is Breakfast Central, the brightest breakfast show on television. And like Cristiano Ronaldo will say, we will always do it again and again. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's good to have the bell, which we call antebellum. My colleagues are wondering what's going on. By the way, let me also warn and mention here this morning that Olive and Benga had a plan.
We had no plan.
But unfortunately for them, I mixed mine with a different tie.
No, we had no plan. So our audience by now should have noticed that my fashion is color-coded, where I choose one color and I wear this color all through the week. Really? My colleagues know that. And sometimes they now try to match my outfit.
They're about to close Straits of Hormuz. Is your color suits that I should be cramming?
I don't.
Stop it.
I don't understand.
And you're welcome back, Shakespeare. I loved your opening. It reminded me of Atedo Shakespeare.
Actually, it reminded me of the King James version of the Bible.
Why?
You know, because he was speaking in Victorian English, in King James English. It meant for him to say to our audience, hacking thee this morning.
Olive, stop it there. Let's get on with the show.
Okay, let's get on with the show. Good morning, Nigerians. Welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. Always a delight to do this with you, knowing that, you know, you're going to be with us every day of the week. Today, we're going to look at some very big stories. Of course, Gbajabiamila is not calming down. We've refused to let it calm down. We hold the story by the jugular. And we're bringing it back again this morning because part of what we talk about is how these stories should not be swept under the carpet. They must be
It's ever evolving.
It's ever evolving. There's new updates every day. And we're going to talk about that this morning on Breakfast Central. We're streaming live. YouTube is where we are. We're in GoTV. We're in DSTV. But we're also streaming live on YouTube. So if you have to drive to work, you can take us with you. News Central TV Live is where we are streaming. And I'm very, very particular about taking your comments on YouTube. Can you please ring the bell for YouTube audience? Special shout out to our YouTube audience. My name is Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to the show. Over to the resident comedian on Breakfast Central.
I am Benga Borough. Welcome to Breakfast Central. It's great to have you join us this beautiful Thursday morning, reaching you live from the commercial nerve center of the giant of Africa, Lagos, center of excellence, city of aquatic splendor. Mixed with some little dirt here and there, but we're working on it. Rome wasn't built in a day. If Rome was built in a day, we would have hired the same contractors that built Rome. Wow, so many things happening across the world. First and foremost, I'd like to commend the staff and management of News Central TV for their successful Katsina Town Hall series. So many stories told, very touching, and we take you to where the news is. We feel the pulse of the people, but and also on the international scene. Joe, you've been fighting a running battle with marketers. The marketers knew what was happening. They're following geopolitics, and for the second night in a row, Tehran was bombed heavily. Missile defense sites, oil installations. So get ready for the crude oil, international price of crude oil to go up. So that dream of seeing below 1,000 naira a litre, well, it's going to happen maybe in the very distant
future. Who are we going to beg now?
Because of Donald Trump, yes, if you have his number. The same way he called Infantino to rescind Balogun's red card. Please tell him to stop. I mean, this war is very, very unnecessary.
He said, you know, I'm not going, this ceasefire is over, you know, that Iran is being very...
Meanwhile, it's the one that is violating the ceasefire. It's just... I mean, it's the time we live in. Like Gramsci said, the old world is dead, the new world struggles to be born. We now live in the time of monsters. I hate seeing children die on TV every day. I mean, look at what's happening in Gaza for the last 3 years. It shakes the core of our humanity, Nigeria to everywhere. It's almost 60 days and those kids are still in the forest. What we hear is they're closer, they're happening. Do you know what it does to the family of the loved ones and those who have their families in the forest? It's terrible. Let's hope we do something about it and they're rescued. The same way they were showing off the helicopter and their skills on doing Nigerian Army.
No, if it's that one, let's not use by that one.
No, it's not. It means they have the capacity. So let them use capacity to rescue.
But today marks 56 days. It's sad. News Central had an exclusive conversation with the Minister of Defense. And in that conversation, he said that while they were trying to approach to ensure that they could rescue the kids, they were told that if they come any closer, they will kill them. We'll try and ensure that we can get that footage out. And it's quite revealing. But while it's quite revealing as well, one thing that we're still wondering is there going to be any hope, or is there hope or end in sight for these children, these pupils and their teachers who have been kept in captivity for so long? That's a conversation I always ask. That's a question I always ask myself, and I'm hoping that eventually I would get good news. But let's move on with our wake-up conversations this morning. Let's start off. We have a lot to talk about this morning. The big one, while you were clamoring and calling for investigation into Gbajabiamila, you were saying there should be all forms of comprehensive investigation. Let's tell you this morning that the Senate has declined to immediately investigate the inclusion of the alleged Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC, in the 2026 Appropriation Act, opting instead to await the outcome of an ongoing investigation by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. The decision was taken during plenary after Senator Kawu Sumaila, APC Kano South, moved a motion seeking an investigation into the purported agency receiving a 1.3 billion naira allocation in the 2026 national budget. The development comes a day after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu directed the ICPC to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the activities of the alleged PFIPC, which the federal government has maintained was never created and has no legal backing. So that's the update that we have. There was an uproar yesterday as well. And conversations were heating up, especially in the House of Representatives, where conversations are linking and talking about every single thing. Aside from the issues concerning corruption, there was also the conversation on insecurity and the likes. But let's focus on this one. Senate says, listen, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to say anything until the investigation has been concluded. Good or bad, Nigerians are reacting differently. Nigerians are saying, no, they should have just gone ahead. After all, it would not have any impact on the investigation, but they should look inwards. The committee, the appropriation committee that sat down and went through the budget line by line, they should call out that committee in the Senate and
to explain
and ask them, please, can you guys come, even if you don't want to meet in public, let's meet in the other room.
So part of the explanation that the Senate spokesperson, in this case, I mean, yesterday we talked about it. Senator Yemi Adaramodu had addressed journalists after plenary, stating that the Senate will not be looking into this matter on the floor of the House because the Senate is not directly responsible for verifying and investigating the heads of ministries, departments, and agencies of the government. That in this case, yes, the Senate looked through the budget and approved the budget, and this PFIPC has a line item on the budget, but that is not the Senate's responsibility to approve and to scrutinize the heads of these agencies. That if it was a situation where it was like the way they do with the ministers, where the ministers have to come and they, thoroughly investigate them. They have those ways in which they screen these ministers. That if it was in that kind of scenario, then they will know that they are directly liable for what has happened. So basically, letting us know that this is not really their problem. It is not an issue that they have. Now, go back to yesterday as well. We had Senator Wemboye join us on the show. And I put the question to him again as well, and he declined to answer. He, of course, first of all, tried to say that this is, he can't validate that this is a line item on the budget because we showed it to him. And I said, if you can't validate it, Senator Yemi Adaramodu already did, and this is what he said. And again, as in typical politician style, he found a way to evade the question. Yesterday now, this matter was brought on the floor of the House. And to put it in simple terms, I would imagine that there are ways, the Senate standing orders provides for ways in which certain matters can be brought. There will be a notice, you know, there's a channel, a certain channel. However, there are exemptions. For example, if it's an urgent matter, if it's a privileged matter, if it's something that has to do with the integrity of the Senate, or some sort of a very urgent matter. So in this case, what it would seem like is they were trying to ensure that, you know, if he wanted to be heard, he should have gone through the regular process of giving notice and all of that. But that being said, they are not going to listen to this matter now because, one, the matter is already sub judice. It's in court. Two, the matter is already being investigated by the ICPC. Let's now come to ICPC. And the matter being investigated by the ICPC. The other angle to look at it from is the criticism that many people have leveled against the fact that the president had to call on the ICPC to investigate the matter. The matter is already in court. If there was a full trust in Nigeria's judicial system, was there a need to separately call on the ICPC to do the investigation? Did the president himself have to call on the ICPC to do this investigation? The criticism, and those who criticize the president for doing this also speak to the fact that there's nothing that has been said regarding asking the chief of staff to step aside. And this is not an admittance or, you know, an implication of his guilt. This is not saying he's guilty. This is saying for the interest of fairness and neutrality, in this scenario, you're representing the presidency. So step aside. Let there be an independent verification, which is why I found it quite surprising to see that the State Police Implementation Commission was set up. And the same Femi Gbajabiamila that is in the eye of the storm was named the chair of that committee. Almost like what many would see it as, like, do your worst. Yeah. Really, like, do your worst. There are certain best practices for public officers and public office holders for how matters should be when they are being investigated. And whilst there isn't any legal requirement that says you must automatically step aside, there's a certain moral obligation that you owe in a society where there's already a breakdown in trust between the citizens and the leaders. And the moral obligation that you owe is to ensure that there will be no new positions that are given to the people who are in the eye of the storm pending the conclusion. And what could have been done then is a speedy or an accelerated investigation and hearing so that we can quickly get to the bottom of this matter and either declare that Femi Gbajabiamila is innocent and deal with the persons who obviously collaborated with Prince Adeyemi Matthew to fund the PFIPC and for it to get to the extent of it being in the budget. Again, Nigerians, your reactions are very important. I will take them on YouTube, but let's have our colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, let's just see what Nigerians are saying. I think that's what we're going to do. You said it all. So let's see what Nigerians are saying quickly on X. Dr. Biz, is it Doctor? Doctor, all right, Doctor. They want to summon the president and shut down the House over non-payment of unconstitutional constituency allowances. LOL, not because of insecurity or the several cases. Yeah.
Not because of security, but because of their own...
Yeah, they said, wow. I mean, we apologies, we should have added that story. It's part of the conversation we're having. Anyway, let's move on. Not because of insecurity or several cases of fraud and corruption entrenched in the government. This tells you that they know exactly what they are doing. They don't need you to tell them what to do to get to fix things. On matters that concerns them, they are quick to exercise their full constitutional authority. But on matters that concern the people, they act helpless and begin shifting blame. The enemies of Nigeria and Nigerians are the people we elected to represent us and the cronies around them. Well, that's what he says. Jibril says, so the Senate approved a budget, only to find out it was false months later. Same Senate says, no, don't probe the budget. Let it go. That's what Jibril says. Let's see another one. Just imagine the kind of country that we come from. These are part of the reasons why we may never, in caps, make progress as a nation. So says Bill in B9. They are only there to approve loans and shout nay and yes. That's what this tweet says. Dear Niger, independent how? The chairman of ICPC was appointed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2023. Same year he was made a SAN. Or more, he says, in large exclamations. But I'm sure we get the point. But let's also go on YouTube and see what the people on YouTube are saying before we go straight to our next story, which would highlight what we just saw. It's got to do with the House of Representatives as well. It was thrown in turmoil during a heated debate over the alleged non-funding of constituency projects. In that particular story, you would also find that some of the honorable members were not happy. If we have the footage, we're going to put the footage up so that we can actually go on YouTube and read all our comments at once. But let's see the footage, if we have it, on this particular story where the House of Representatives was thrown into an uproar regarding what they were expecting should have happened. You know, Honorable Alex Mascot from Abia State moved a motion demanding that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu be summoned to explain the persistent lack of funding, while other lawmakers suggested shutting down the House for 1 week until the matter is resolved. Wow. The proposal sparked sharp divisions. Honorable Yusuf Gagdi opposed summoning the president, arguing that relevant agencies are responsible for project implementation. His stance triggered resistance, from opposition members, leading to rowdy scenes and loud exchanges. In an effort to restore order, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas intervened and directed members to vote, ensuring the House would take a clear stand on the contentious issue. Well, guys.
I mean, there are different ways to look at it. You can argue that those constituency projects are a way of getting federal presence to the constituents who are in their villages and various places across the country, so that the House of Reps members, they can say, look, we don't just go to Abuja for excursions, but we are here to represent the people, and therefore, as a result of our appointment or our election, we've been able to bring X, Y, Z projects to our people. But if these projects aren't funded, then, I mean, they just end up being talking heads, one of 360 talking heads in the House of Representatives. So they have a point there, but I don't know if their anger is channeled to the right authority. There are those who are responsible for funding, or the Ministry of Finance, for example. If the coordinating Minister of Finance and the Economy was summoned, I would understand that, because I don't understand why Mr. President, in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is dealing with many, many issues, should come to the House of Representatives because of constituency projects. I think, yeah, the energy and the anger should be channeled to the right proportion. I do understand that maybe he might give the last order. I don't even think so. So you should take your fight to the Minister of Finance and the budgeting office and relevant stakeholders there, but not Mr. President. Summon Mr. President when it's security issues, that why are we the 6th most terrorized country in the world today? Why haven't we been able to rescue those kids in Orire, because in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief? But I don't think it's Mr. President's cup of tea to give orders or marching order to release the constituency, the constituency funds for Kwashiorkor and other places.
Let's get to see how the session was. Let's just watch.
2026 budget is implemented. I will fight. Agencies are not being funded. Our people are kidnapped every day. Heads are being chopped off on national television. We want to invite the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as our father to come and explain to us why we are spending trillions of naira doing roads, why we are spending billions of naira doing coastal roads, yet Nigerians are dying. Yet our security agencies are not receiving funding. Point of order. Move.
Thank you. Any seconder to this motion? Yes. Any seconder, please? We want this motion to be bipartisan, so I would want to see a member of the ruling party also join in this. It's not a minority issue, I believe. So any member of the APC here that is willing to? Honorable Jajeri.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Engineer Mohammed Bubajajere, PhD. I stand this afternoon to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Mascot. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Amendment. Who has an amendment to make?
Amendment.
I only recognize one from this side, so Honorable Amobi. Either you or Honorable Ginger agree to who will move the amendment, please.
Thank you, our dear Speaker and my dear colleagues. My name is Right Honorable Amobi Godwin Oga. I rise this morning to amend part of the prayers made by my brother L.S. Ikweche. And that amendment is that this House cancel the open week or postponed to enable us be able to resolve this matter amicably. I so move. Thank you.
Any seconder to this amendment? Any seconder, please? Any seconder? Who is seconding, please?
I'm seconding.
Peter, I did not recognize you. You cannot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Zangwandaura. Maure.
The Right Honorable Speaker, my distinguished honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Sani Lawal, representing Zongo Bori Federal Constituency from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to second the amendment moved by honorable colleague I so second. Thank you.
Thank you. Another amendment? Honorable Gadi, please go ahead. Sorry, I didn't put the question. Let me put the question first. Honorable Gadi, can you sit down so that I can put the question?
You say? Yes, contribution, Mr. Speaker. I represent, I'm totally in support of the motion moved by my brother. Totally. But I reserve the right to make amendment and express my opinions as a parliament on areas that I feel it should not be handled the way he prayed for. Mr. Speaker, it's good to hear each other. Democracy, principle of federalism have a constitutional procedure, and holding government to account for taxpayers' money equally have a modus operandi of doing that. Mr. Speaker, Nigeria operates principle of federalism with different departments and agencies of government. No. It is only ideal for Parliament to invite people delegated with responsibility. Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! I will talk. Sit down!
Order, please.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, so just to give a bit of it, they are really working. You know, let's really applaud them. They are working hard. But just to give a bit of it.
Sorry, I want to ask a question. Was it on the kidnapped children?
No, it wasn't on the kidnapped children.
Okay, was it on the economy?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
That mascot, is it not the man that we remember from?
Yes.
That
He
slapped.
had issues with the ride-hailing platform.
Okay. No, not this one. No, not
This is
one.
a different issue.
This is a different issue. Okay.
But this argument,
Okay, so let's come back to it, just to give a little bit of background. So Alex Ikweche, he submitted a written motion with 5 prayers. The motion was titled, Urgent Need to Address the Poor Funding of Appropriated Budgets and Delayed Releases to MDAs. Now, this written version did not contain a prayer to summon the president. It was on the floor while he was, supporting his motion and, further speaking on it. He now verbally added a prayer to summon the president. And of course, there was some kickbacks, and Yusuf Gaji objected, arguing that it's financial officials and not the president that will be summoned. All in all, here's what the speaker ruled. He ruled that the added prayer was out of order, explicitly stating presiding officers are bound by the written motion, not the oral additions. And he told Alex Mascot directly that that prayer 5 only called for a committee, not a presidential visit. Independent newspapers' account has Abbas calling the move unparliamentary. Now, the motion was then put to a voice vote and adopted without the Tinubu summons prayer, of course, so they are not summoning President Tinubu. Now, here's what the House actually resolved. They urged the Finance Ministry, Budget Office of the Accountant General and CBN to prioritize timely release and cash backing of 2026 funds. 2, they demanded a published timetable for capital fund releases. 3, called for a review of the June 29, 2026 Treasury Circular issued by AGF Shamsuddin Ogunjimi that added a verification certificate requirement before constituency project payments. The circular that Etana Bennett had separately flagged. Now, the 4th one, they constituted a 12-member ad hoc committee chaired by Appropriations Committee Chairman Abubakar Bichi to report back within 4 weeks. So the issue was about money, about release of poor funding. They need to address the poor funding of appropriated budgets and delayed release to ministries, departments, and agencies. So you look at this story vis-a-vis the earlier one that we took, where we saw our senators saying that they will not step in to investigate how the line item, how the PFIPC got a line item on the budget. And now this is what we're seeing them arguing. I have no comment. Over to you, Nigerians.
You wonder who's on the side of the Nigerian people. I did share my opinion earlier before we took that video on the rowdy plenary. But my opinion still stays the same. I mean, there are 2 ways to look at it.
To be fair,
it's July. This is the 7th month of the year. If not, we're going to go through the same ritual over and over again when they come for budget defense. XYZ was not released to our MDA, our ministries. How do you expect them to carry out their statutory
exactly
function? Why do you even bother with the ritual of a budget if you're not going to release these funds? They do have a point. And what do you want them to show for when they go back home? We've seen videos of constituents angry with their representatives. They stone them when they come. Because funds were not released, they don't have money to carry out constituency projects. But like I said earlier again, the fight should not be to Mr. President. You should go.
Yeah, so that's why I needed to clarify that it wasn't necessarily Mr. President. It was Alex on the floor verbally added that as a prayer, and then they said no, this is not part of the written prayer. And if at all, it's even finance. The financial officials was a little bit motivated.
After written prayer while he was speaking, he was motivated, just like Martin Luther King. I say, you know what? Let's even summon the #1 citizen of the land. And
I think you said it all. I agree with you, Winga, that when citizens are demanding for certain requirements, these are their rights. It's not a favor. When they have these different constituencies, have targets, they have budgets, because there are things that need to be done. They will not be done with thin air. They will be done with money, and money has to be released. Again, though, why people will raise eyebrow about this is because there's just the fear of the inability of them to properly manage money. That's just the fear. They are afraid of, and you will see some of that in the reactions, I'm sure. Afraid of budget padding, afraid of kickbacks, and afraid of budget padding, especially because we just spoke about a budget that had a line item that should not have been there. But it goes without saying that there's an argument for budgets for capital funds to be released. If you say that you are allocating a certain money for certain things to be done, we don't need to now start begging and cajoling and putting pressure for the monies to be released, because it's when the money is released, then you can start to track and say, okay, the money has been released. Why has this budget or why has this project not yet been undertaken as provided for in the budget?
Anyway, I think we all are aware that the budgets are being carried over I'm sure Nigerians are aware
for
of
a
that.
few years.
Which is wild, and that's something that our president had promised that we would have sorted. This current administration had promised we would not be having concurrent budgets, but unfortunately we are back here.
So we see that happening back and forth. But let's see what Nigerians are saying in case Nigerians are reacting to
Let me take someone.
You know what, let's just stick to YouTube.
Or YouTube, rather. Mr. Johnson says, I don't know why you're surprised, though, Olive. For since 2014 that Mr. Frank Kweke Jr. made me get interested in Nigerian politics. APC government generally has spoiled the show for me, unfortunately. Michael Zu says, Olive, Benga and Joe, don't you know that the constituency projects are where huge kickbacks abound? Didn't you see money meant for Almajiri education being used for road construction in Ogun State? Najisa says, do you really believe that even with the so-called independent investigation, looking at the way things are in Nigeria, anything meaningful will come out? This is referring to the ICPC being instructed by the president to investigate PFIPC. Then Chuks Danny says they are inviting Tinubu to sing on your mandate's default. Hey. Arthur Rich says, Benga, we are not the 6th most terrorized country in the world. We have moved from 8th to 4th under this administration. Alarming.
Update.
OA says, this is just for the optics, to make the house look like they are working. APC politicians don't care about the Nigerian state and the people. Mokuye Chukwemeka says, story from the House of Representatives. You want to hold government account after almost 4 years? The dishonorable wants to remove the president from scrutiny. Ogunsonya Adenike says, someone needs to take noisemakers. Name of noisemakers. Same on lawmakers for behaving like kindergarten children. Chuks Danny says, when it comes to money, our reps are vocal. But when it comes to insecurity, the message, they massage the president. Okay. Femi Olagunju says, honestly speaking, MDAs can't perform their statutory functions due to non-release of capital funds. Things at standstill in all MDAs, and that's the point that we highlighted, very valid there. Regarding the matter of the earlier story regarding Senate refusing to dabble into the waters, the murky waters of the PFIPC, Mr. Johnson's, Chuks Danny says the government has failed in its core mandate to protect the lives of Nigerians. Every other achievement they flaunt is tertiary, not even secondary. They have failed. Chuks Danny says, I'm surprised that Nigerians are surprised that the Senate is failing in their oversight function. Does the Akpabio Senate work for Nigerians or the presidency? They work for Tinubu now. Chuks Danny. I didn't say it though. Two final comments. Michael Zu says, Senate is independent than ICPC, which is controlled by AGF, to investigate Gbajagate. I suspect Senate complicity and deliberate refusal to avoid exposing their self-inflicted rot. Prayer envelope. So Arthur Rich says, to call Senate rubber stamp is an understatement. It doesn't do justice to the nauseating level of subservience to the executive. And finally, Chuks Danny says, thank you, News Central, for keeping this issue on the front burner. It shouldn't be swept under, please. We have no representatives.
And just to confirm Arthur Rich's statement, yes, that Nigeria is currently ranked 4th most impacted country in the world by terrorism. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think of the whole 190-something countries we have in the world. We're 4th most terrorized country according to the Global Terrorism Index of 2026. Published by the Institute for Economics and Peace. So, that tells you all you need to know.
That's really, really sad.
State police will solve the issue.
And that is why, again, I'm still surprised that Femi Gbajabiamila is chairing the implementation of state police committee. But the good thing is, yes, you are in the eye of the storm. I don't know how the presidency thinks it makes them look, especially because fingers have been pointed at them and their ability to stay neutral, or their need for fair hearing or a fair trial. But we have guests who will come and discuss this with us. Seasoned analysts will be coming to discuss this thoroughly in a few minutes. Let's share with you what the top stories are this morning on Breakfast Central.
This morning on Breakfast Central, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu transmits 2 executive bill proposals to lawmakers. We'll talk about that. PFIPC scandal, nope. Hashtag Gbajabiamila. Embattled DJ Adeyemi vows to cooperate with ICPC. And we'll look at GoNigeria launches Collect Your Power campaign, urges youth participation in elections. We'll be having Peterside join us. And let me tell you this, states failed to implement Nigeria's non-state school policy 1 year after. Is a deeper conversation we're going to have as well here on Breakfast Central, plus the newspaper front pages. So stay with us. We'll be right back to begin. Welcome back. The controversy surrounding the alleged Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council is evolving into a broader test of accountability within the government institutions. At the heart of the matter is a question that remains unanswered. How did an agency the presidency insists was never established appear to operate within official circles, secure budgetary allocation, and engage with government institutions? Well, let's also tell you that that question has gained renewed attention after President Bola Tinubu directed the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission to investigate the matter. Meanwhile, the alleged Director General Adeyemi says he is ready to hand over documents to investigators, insisting they will help uncover the truth. Adeyemi also maintains he had no role in the agency's inclusion in the 2026 budget, saying it was in detention while it was being prepared. As the ICPC begins its 30-day investigation, attention is shifting from competing claims to whether the probe can answer the many questions surrounding the council's existence and operations. Well, let's dig deep into this conversation as we look at the political and governance implications of this unfolding controversy, not just in Nigeria, but also in the eye of the international community. We're joined by renowned political analyst Mr. Dayo Akintobi joins us in the studio. Thank you so much for being here this morning on Breakfast Central.
My pleasure always. Good morning, Nigerians. Pleasure to be here.
Good morning. To have you join.
Good morning, gentlemen.
All right. I think the first question would be, this controversy appears to have moved beyond allegations of forged documents. The bigger question now is how an agency the presidency says they know nothing about, they have no inkling that it existed, was able to get its budget into the country. I mean, into the national budget. It was able to get some money in the national budget. How is that possible?
Well, clearly there's some institutional failure here, because whether it's a fictitious agency or a real one, the fact that it managed to get into the 2026 Appropriation Act in and of itself is an indictment of institutional processes. Essentially, the way budgets work and the way appropriations enter the budget, any agency, MDA of the government, when they present their budget, they actually have to come and defend it before the Senate. So there has to be a public hearing within a committee that actually examines the budget and criticizes it, perhaps amends it, perhaps makes adjustments, and there's particular focus on that particular council or agency. So there's no way it can slip through the cracks and get into
that's true. I didn't really think of that.
Bill.
I mean, we didn't really think of that, and that's true. Nobody's really talking about that. If you present a budget, you have to come and defend the budget. So who defended the budget on behalf of the embattled Adeyemi, who at that time said he was in custody or something?
Well, what the Senate is saying is that it came in as part of a group under the presidency, that there are many agencies under the presidency, and they submitted a bunch of them together. And so they took them as a whole and didn't deal with them as individual items. If that's the case, then that's dereliction of duty to begin with, because no matter what happens, the law, appropriation law, requires that each agency come and defend its budget, and that those budgets be individually scrutinized. Each line item is supposed to go through a process before the entire document is approved and passed on to the president for signature. So to me, the issue now has gotten beyond, is the agency fake or is it real? Is the presidency telling the truth or is it Mr. Adeyemi that's telling the truth? I think it's beyond that, because either of the two possibilities that is eventually proven still points to major lapses. If the presidency is telling the truth, if the presidency is correct that it's a fictitious agency, it was never chartered by government, it wasn't that the establishment letter was forged, which, by the way, they say there's a forensic report which we've not seen in public. Right. So that's still hearsay. It's not proven, which is good that there's a court process. And recently the ICPC has come into the matter, but I don't really agree with that, because I don't think the police should police itself. I don't think the ICPC is an arm of the executive. I don't think it should be charged with investigating something that's emanating from the presidency.
Right.
I would have preferred to see an independent council probing this. But nonetheless, the larger issue that I'm pointing out simply is that either way you look at it, we've got egg on our face and mud in our eyes, because any of the two possibilities, if it turns out to be fictitious, truthfully, then the fact that it could get a line item in the budget, the fact that it could have an office in the Federal Secretariat, the fact that it allegedly has accounts at the CBN, the fact that it was able to employ staff, get a waiver. At a time when the federal government was not employing, it was able to take on 300 staff. So if it is fictitious, the fact that all these things were able to happen points to major institutional failure. Now, on the other hand, I mean, that means the checks and balances we put in place, a smart person made nonsense of all the checks and balances. On the other hand, if Mr. Adeyemi is telling the truth, and this actually emanated from the executive, whether through collusion of insiders, not to the knowledge of the president or the higher-ups, and there was collusion, perhaps maybe from the chief of staff's office, maybe from the Ministry of Budget, maybe from the Senate, maybe from, the office of the Accountant General, wherever the case may be. Even if there was internal collusion, the point is that if it is true, it's also an indictment, because, I've already dealt with the part that if the presidency is correct, that is fictitious. I've dealt with that. Now I'm saying if Mr. Adeyemi's allegations are proven to be true, which means that the agency is not fictitious, perhaps unauthorized by law, but not fictitious in that it was properly constituted. It turns out that the establishment letter is real, even if it was not to the knowledge of the president. If all of that turns out to be accurate, then it speaks to abuse of office, it speaks to corruption, it speaks to outright theft, because remember, there's the issue of 400 million naira as a bribe to be allocated the position of Director General.
Both the person receiving and the person giving.
Absolutely. Guilty. Absolutely. Then there's the issue of the 47 billion takeoff grant, of which 48%, no, 20-something billion, of which 48% came to 12-point-something billion. That's an allegation. We've not even had a forensic audit to know if there really was a takeoff grant that was appropriated for this purpose. But for the sake of argument, if his side is correct, then it goes to show a much deeper and more malevolent evil than if the presidency is telling the truth. Either way, however it turns out,
it's an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassment.
I want to talk about the Senate's pushback on why they can't step in, and I know you touched on that.
Yes.
Them saying, you were asking, how did it become a line item?
Yes.
Senator Yemi Adaramodu was addressing journalists, and he explained why the Senate will not be meddling into this. One, he said the matter is sub judice. But regarding how it became a line item, he said it is not the responsibility of the Senate to do security checks on the heads of MDAs. So I want you to speak to that, because from what you're saying, somebody should have come to defend that budget.
Yes.
But is there some measure of culpability in that the Senate should have verified the authenticity of the person coming to deliver the budget? Or is there a window for the Senate to escape culpability in that, from that aspect?
Senate is totally guilty of dereliction of duty because their oversight function. Let's even accept, without conceding, for the sake of argument, that security checks on the heads of institutions is not their remit. I agree. But what is their remit is that line item in the budget. They are supposed to investigate that. Forget the person who brought it. First of all, if there was no budget defense by a representative of that agency, they are culpable, number one. Because what it means is that the signature on that Appropriation Act is founded on falsehood or unverified claims. And that document represents the collective will of 220 million people. You have no right to sign it without having vetted it judiciously and scrupulously, to the point that you can look at Nigerians the day you pass that budget and you sign it into law and say, for the next 1 year, these are our collective aspirations. and I'm putting my signature on this document on your behalf.
And part of the other argument that they brought up, again, this is following yesterday's reason why they would not step in. You know, the Bar Jibrin was stating the manner in which, you know, the senator had brought it before the House. Typically, they would require a notice unless it's a matter of urgent attention or it's a privilege motion that affects the integrity of the Senate. So, what are your thoughts on them being procedural about how this matter should have been brought about?
The operative word in your statement now was their responsibility. How can they claim that because procedures became hurdles, that they would subjugate their integrity to procedure when what they are supposed to do? I mean, there's discretion in everything we do. Nothing's black and white. In situations where there is public outcry, I would think that anyone would want to clear their name. Absolutely. I don't think this is a time to hide under the shield of procedure and say, oh, it wasn't brought properly. I think this is a time when all bets are off, suspend all rules, cancel vacation.
Even with ICPC investigating?
Absolutely. ICPC should be supported in this investigation because what we have now is a search for the truth.
Exactly.
So anybody...
you need all the collaboration for multiple agencies.
Absolutely. Any and everybody who can contribute to revealing what the truth is, because the truth might actually exonerate the chief of staff, might exonerate the executive, might exonerate the Senate. I mean, maybe perhaps we slap them on the wrist and say, okay, so you are a bit negligent in terms of your oversight, but we might not find any real will to misappropriate monies or to corruptly enrich certain individuals by collaborating on this falsity. So those who are innocent would do any and everything to promote the search for the truth. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
Mr. Akintobi, this brings me to my question.
Yes.
When this news broke out about this so-called fictitious agency, Mr. Bananuga quickly put out statements, long series of tweets, in defense of the Chief of Staff. Mr. President got to his table. He said, look, hold on, I'm not defending anyone. Ordered the ICPC to investigate and get back to him within 30 days. Yes. From a governance perspective, what would constitute a credible investigation and what questions would it answer to the public?
Well, first and foremost, I thought that Mr. Ononuga's press release was presumptuous.
Too early.
It was too early and it made too many assumptions. For example, we talked about 34 bank accounts in CBN, which have currently been debunked, that they didn't complete the account opening process because some of the signatories didn't show up, and so it was never completed. So I don't think that government should rush to debunk certain things because it makes you look desperate. It makes you look worried. When you're jittery, and when you're jittery, you make mistakes. Because essentially what happened is that press statement has now been proven to be full of holes in so many different aspects that it has actually worsened the government's position and has worsened Mr. Gbajabiamila's standing. And I think, to answer Benga's question, I think that without being told, he on his own should have stepped aside and said, so as not to impede this investigation, and being confident in my innocence.
How about his defamation suit, threat of a defamation suit?
Well,
Isn't there confidence in his innocence to the tune of billions of naira?
Yeah, 100-something billion.
If Prince Adeyemi does not withdraw his allegations?
Yes, I saw that as well, and to me, I thought that that was a bit of medicine after death. I felt like that is just essentially trying to shore up a public image that the genie is already out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. And I feel like Mr. Gbajabiamila is trying to do damage control. I think that essentially he's now seen that, okay, so it's the ICPC that's going to investigate this. Remember, he already has a court case against this person.
Yes.
He has a court case that's pending. The next hearing is July 27th. That's ample opportunity for innocence or guilt to be established. If he was standing confidently in his position, he didn't need this additional step because the court would vindicate him. They're already saying the matter is sub judice, so certain people can't talk about it, we can't. So if it's sub judice, it means we've given all authority to the court as the arbiter of truth. So if we're confident in the court's ability to be an arbiter of who did what, then I don't think this was necessary beyond what it could do for his public image. I think that he's probably reveling in the fact that it's an internal agency that's doing the investigation. Like I said, the ICPC is an agency of the executive. He is the gatekeeper of the executive. So from where I sit, politically, I don't see anything coming out of the ICPC that will indict him. I don't see it happening. I don't see it.
So are we saying it's a move in, it's not a move that Nigerians should actually expect anything from?
Well, I mean, they do housekeeping. They will do housekeeping, but I have more confidence in the court process. I would have preferred an independent probe as opposed to the ICPC because, like I said, Mr. Gbajabiamila is professedly the political godson of the president. That is the truth. I would think that if the president felt really bothered about what is happening, he would have asked him to step aside. The fact that the administration is actually trying to protect him, if you look at what Mr. Onanuga has had to say.
And others.
And others.
And also the recent appointment.
Yeah, I was going to mention that how does it look? He's been recently appointed the chair of the State Police Implementation
That
Committee.
was a shocker to me because it told me that this is just a theater of the absurd, that politics in Nigeria really leaves so much to be desired even after 26, 27 odd years of coming back to democracy, because anybody who's under a cloud of suspicion, until, granted, he's innocent until proven guilty, but the bottom line is there's been probable cause. If you look at certain things are not phantoms. A line item in the appropriation bill that was signed into law is not a ghost. It's not a hologram. It's a real living, breathing appropriation. So what I mean is there's probable cause to believe that something bad happened, something untoward happened. And for now, the finger is pointing at Mr. Gbajabiamila. Until he's exonerated, I think it is the height of administrative arrogance to give him additional responsibilities at a time when he should be stepping back from his prominent role, and to not give him responsibility of something as critical as the committee to fashion out a framework for state police.
Does it not matter that he said he has never met Gbajabiamila? He had an interview with social media influencer Martin Vincent Ose, and in that interview he was saying that he had never met him and that whatever happened was facilitated by
the middleman, who conveniently has tragically passed away. So he's not here to defend himself, to say whether it was so or it was not so. So that's still third-party hearsay. He said, she said. Where is the truth? I mean, it seems a bit too pat to me, too convenient, that the one person who can clear the air on this is conveniently not available to do so. So when you look at the series of coincidences, the lapses, the shenanigans, because when you look at the issue of getting a line item in the appropriations bill, I saw this gentleman convening summits with key international people.
Yes, and senior members of the military and diplomatic corps. Yeah.
Even staying with the vice president was there taking pictures, images, flying around.
So yeah, the optics don't look good. The optics don't look good because they seem to indicate that whether he was unauthorized, I've stopped using the word fictitious or fake, because what I see is, at worst, it might have been unofficially unauthorized. But to say that, because fictitious means it doesn't exist. Yeah, exactly. This thing existed. I'm sorry,
it's in the budget.
It existed. How much more do you exist than beyond if you're in the budget?
National budget is the most. It's a treasure. It's the most important budget in a country's lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does exist. It's an existing agency. It just might have been unauthorized or might have come into existence through the back door. But believe me, it's a living, breathing money crunching organism.
Thank you so much. Thank you to me. Always a pleasure having you.
My pleasure always. My pleasure always. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll have another conversation. It's countdown to PVC collections and, of course, countdown to what you need to know. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have all of that conversation in a moment.
Across Nigeria, conversations are growing louder about the role of young people in shaping the country's democratic journey. Now, as Nigeria looks ahead to the 2027 general elections, one of the most pressing issues is how to get young people more involved in the democratic process. With over 70% of the population under the age of 35, the youth hold the power to redefine the country's political future, but only if they step up to register and vote. Now, the challenge is clear: turning these numbers into influence. That's what the issue is.
The question is no longer whether young Nigerians should participate, but how their involvement can transform the nation's future. And GoNigeria, convened by the founder of IBTC, Mr. Atedo Peterside, commander of the Order of the Niger, is helping steer young Nigerians into directions that ensure they take part in the critical assignment of participating in the voters' registration exercise. Join us this morning from London for this important conversation on youth participation is the founder of Stanbic IBTC and president and founder, ANAP Foundation, Mr. Atedo Peterside. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on your station.
I mean, the first and most important question is, why did you decide to embark on this advocacy, and why is it important to you?
Okay, let me just explain that GoNigeria was founded 4 years ago. So we actually existed before the last general election. And you asked me a question, why did I decide to do this? It's one of the projects of my foundation, ANAP Foundation. I think the genesis, or should I say, it goes all the way back to NSAS, when I think many Nigerian youths became politically active. And the idea was, look, instead of channeling your energy only at protests, why don't you also, I say also, not instead of, why don't you also channel your energy towards mobilizing many young people? You are the majority. Even the numbers given by your colleague on this station this morning about the demography, you are the majority. If you guys get together, register, and you vote. In many elections, forget about just presidency, House of Assembly, House of Rep, Senate, the candidate that gets the support of the bulk of you wins. So why don't you take back your country? Focus on taking back your country. And then you can also protest side by side. What you cannot do is to protest and then stay out of the processes to decide who governs you. So that was where it came from. And thereafter, what I did was to assemble a number of advocates. Everything we're doing for Nigeria, I believe in federal character. Today, we have 24 advocates in GoNigeria, 4 from each geopolitical zone. These are people that are volunteering their time and their energy to help to mobilize Nigerians to register to vote. And that's the priority right now, because the deadline for registration is Sunday, July 26th, which is just over 2 weeks from today.
Right.
So why do you think voter apathy persists among young Nigerians despite their numbers?
It's like asking a question, why is somebody depressed? One thing is sure, if perhaps, it's ironic, but if things were going very well, many people would have had more optimism, and then they might have come out to take part in their civic duty. It's very tempting in life when you are getting the wrong end of the stick to feel hopeless and give up and say, there's nothing I can do, everything has been rigged, everything has been decided. Some people, some old people, ancient people have grabbed the country by the throat. Whatever I do or say has no impact. But that's a dangerous mindset, because it leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy. The people who you say have hijacked the country or in control of the country, the thing they fear most is a massive youth turnout at any election. You must always learn in life to give your opponent what he does not want. What they actually want is a very low turnout, so that even if you are buying votes, you only have to buy a few votes and you've won. So it's difficult to get young people to realize that they have the potential. The country is theirs. The future is theirs. And this country is not going to change until they decide to carry out their civic duty and take the bull by the horn and try and begin to engage in deciding who gets to govern them. And it can even be at the level of your state house of assembly, house of rep, whatever level, including presidency, of course.
There was a certain awareness that we saw in the 2023 election. Young people, for the first time in a long time, were more than ever very interested in politics, in being a part of the elections. From your organization's perspective, from the data you've been able to collate, how would you say the current reality is and projection for 2027, which is just in a few months? So in terms of registration to actual turning out on the day proportion, from what we see, if we continue on this trajectory, is it going to be better than what we saw in 2023 or worse?
Okay, let's not jump ahead of the game. I deliberately drew attention to July 26th. Let's go step at a time. I can always come back to discuss what happens after July 26th. But for now, July 26th is the deadline by which, if you do not pick up your smartphone and put in your name on cvr.inecnigeria.org, then you're out of the game completely. You can't even vote. You can't change your mind later. So let's focus on what we have to do to get all the people who didn't register. Of course, the majority are the young ones, but many of them are only 18 years old. So 4 years ago, they were 14. So those who were 14, 15, 16, 17, and were out of the elections last time, we want to bring them in. And to be fair, many have been responding, but I don't think Nigeria is doing enough to mobilize them, explain to them why it's important that you've turned of age, you are 18, this is your duty, this is your right, go and claim your birthright. I don't think Nigeria is doing enough about that. It's also part of INEC's job, by the way, and INEC will claim they're doing it. But guess what? Even when I first spoke to your TV station, I don't think anybody was aware at the time of the deadline, which then was July 14th. Even this new deadline of July 26th, you almost have to beg people to find out or to know when is the deadline. So some young people are in danger of waking up on July 27th, going to go and try and register, and they're told it's too late. So the concern is to spread this message and say you've got 2 weeks to come out and register. When you register, then you keep your options open. It's about keeping your options open. Register first. Then you can decide whether you want to vote on election day or who you will vote for or who you will not vote. Look, everywhere in the world, we all know, it's candidates that mobilize people, that create excitement. So if candidates create excitement in the campaign period, it will help to increase turnout. If candidates are dull and are not, the type that inspire confidence, turnout will be lower. But we can talk about turnout and other things later. I prefer to focus on what needs to be done between now and Sunday, 26 July.
Now, talking about doing what should be done between now and Sunday, I mean, we have a generation of Nigerians that will be turning 18. These are digital natives that were born in the advent of the internet, went to primary school with internet, and they're very familiar with technology, and they are more in tune with convenience. What role should INEC play in making registration more accessible to first-time voters? Because when you tell people they have to physically go to a local government and queue, especially Gen Zs and others, they feel, it's quite an inconvenience. Why should I bother myself? So what feedback would you give INEC in terms of making it more accessible?
Yeah, but let's be fair, because I'm not here to just find fault with INEC. INEC has done a major thing. I said all you need to register is take your own smartphone by yourself, stay in your bedroom at 2 a.m., and you can register on your phone. That is the deadline for July 26th. It's about you picking up a smartphone or internet, or go to a friend that has a phone, and you log in cvr.inecnigeria.org. and you can put in your name, your details and everything, and at least you've met the deadline. Let's not confuse the first action you have to take, which is to go to the website. Indeed, it is the educated people you're talking about. You said people who are tech savvy and so on, who actually will find it easiest, because you can do it on your smartphone in your house. The first step is to put in your name and your details for INEC before July 26th, which you can do in your bedroom. The second step after that, when you've done that, you will then choose a center for some time later to go to INEC to capture the biometrics. That is the second step. But guess what? As soon as you've inputted, you input all your details by 26 July, you've met the deadline. So the next step is the one that involves a physical move to a place where they will capture your biometrics. And then even then, I mean, INEC claims now that unlike in the past, when after your biometrics and they issue your card, you had to physically collect your card, which became torturous for many people because there were stories about even INEC officials bearing voters' cards and all kinds of nonsense that shouldn't happen. This time, they claim you should be able to download your PVC yourself, which some of us have been asking for all this time. Why make this simple thing so difficult? Almost every aspect of this process you should be able to do from your own house, except the biometrics. That's the only thing that should warrant you going to look for anybody in INEC. So again, let me just emphasize, what we are canvassing for now is people should pick up a smart device or borrow from a friend, register, put in their name, all their details, your age, date of everything before 26 July. Then you get an appointment for biometrics to go and which will come later. But if you miss the first step and you miss the deadline, then it's too late.
Okay, I mean, the countdown is on. You are pushing that the youth starts now, just like you've mentioned, and in all the course of our conversation. But the youths, do you think that the political parties are also doing enough to galvanize this movement? Because if GoNigeria is doing what it has to do, whatever the political parties, in terms of their names, whoever they are, also doing what they have to do, the country might see a turnaround in terms of the numbers. But do you think GoNigeria alone, or do you think rather, do you think the political parties are also doing enough to move the youths to go ahead and register?
Look, it's not when you talk about political parties, all politics is local. So it varies with where you are in Nigeria and what efforts people are making. Let's be very careful. Somebody's running for House of Assembly in Lagos or in Borno State. So what is his priority? To get everybody and anybody that he knows or he can access to register in his LGA in Borno. Many of them are doing that because they want votes for themselves. So it's a self-interest issue. And let me also tell you something about the educated youth versus the so-called illiterate youth. The illiterate youth in Nigeria are better at coming out to register and carry out their civic duty. Perhaps because they believe that getting the PVC is a right to collecting 15,000. I know it sounds like I'm being unfair, but for some of them, they know that if you get that PVC, politicians will come and try and buy your votes. So they get it. The problem is the educated youth or those who are tech savvy and all, who then sometimes get trapped in this game of thinking, well, I know so much, I'm educated, and I know that in reality in Nigeria, even if I get my PVC, even if I get to vote, somehow they'll manipulate the outcome, they will rig it, so I won't bother. That's the one that leads to this self-fulfilling prophecy. By keeping yourself out of the elections, you have given up your right to decide who gets to govern you. So I repeat, it's a problem of the educated youth. It's not a problem of the illiterate youth. Go to your village and check. Almost all the illiterate youth are registered. Because they know, they have even been told, if you don't register, when it's time to share money, you won't get your own share, and all kinds of negative things like that. It's the educated graduate who believes, I'm too sophisticated to sell my votes to any idiot for 15,000 naira anyway, so I'm not going to bother. But he should take the other cue, which is that he should be deciding whom he will vote for in every election, including House of Assembly, House of Rep. And please, before people start getting too negative about House of Rep elections, let me tell you the story. of my own polling unit in Victoria Island. The last election, go and check. The candidate that won the House of Rep in Victoria Island was from Labour Party. Nobody knew him. He beat PDP, he beat APC. People just went in there and voted against APC and PDP. And so he won. Some young guy that nobody knew.
Right. I hear when you speak to the power of the knowledge of the influence that owning and holding your PVC is, and you speak about, unfortunately, those who have the negative, they see the picture, the uneducated young people who see the picture of what this can be. Now, as we are canvassing and we're advocating for young people around the country to ensure that they register on or before the 26th of July 2026, how do we then move from just canvassing about registration to sustained voter education?
Yeah, I think that voter education is a collective effort. And I must also commend New Central, because even having this discussion with me, you're taking part in the process. That's part of the collective effort. If media houses, they have no interest, they don't want to discuss, they don't care if anybody mobilizes voters or not. But I think the reason why we put the primary focus on the very young ones is that, parents should be responsible for the upbringing of the younger ones. Adults in the society should be responsible for making sure that the younger ones get the right exposure. And we are collectively responsible. When I say we, I think everybody on this program is definitely above 21. So there's a bunch of Nigerian kids who were 14 years, 15, 16, 17 last time around. It is our responsibility in every country for us to tell them that now you're of age, you're 18, you're entitled to the following. Come and claim your birthright, carry out your civic duty. We are the ones responsible for bringing them up. We are the ones responsible for the messaging. And we can make the messaging positive in a way that encourages them to come out. And guess what? I've said it before, and I'm sure you can check. In terms of demography, if the voters who are 18, 19, 20, 21, that is new first-time voters alone, in many LGAs, if those people be aged between 18 and 22, let's say, alone, decide to vote for one candidate, that candidate has won. That's true. Because they're the majority. He has won immediately, like happened in Victoria Island. So really, it is about their wish and who they want. And the older politicians are scared of that. The last thing they want is to come out and mobilize these young people. You know what young people do everywhere in the world? They vote against the establishments. That's the general trend.
Okay. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, I think my final question to you would be, the youths tend to like certain things. I mean, from entertainment to tech, what drives them? And what are people doing, people like your humble self doing, to ensure that they can use what the youths like to drive them to engage in registration? But that will be after we come back from this break. Let's go on a quick break. Stay with us. Our conversation still is looking at youth's participation ahead of 2027. We have the convener of GoNigeria who joins us, Mr. Atedo Peterside CON. Like I said before we went on a break, the youths tend to love entertainment, they love music, they love movies. In other countries, we've seen how these things that they love have been used to galvanize or push them as a movement. What is GoNigeria doing to engage the youth with what they love to ensure that they do this before the deadline?
Your first thing's correction. The website you called was the wrong website. There's no such website.
Oh,
it's
my apology. CVR.
It's cvr.inecnigeria.org. There's no .com.
.org.
INEC. Yeah, .org. cvr.inecnigeria.org. I would even love it if at the end of this program you put up that website so people go to the right place.
Don't worry about that. We'll leave that to us. We'll make more announcements on that.
Yes, okay. Yeah, please help us between now and July 26th and put it out every day.
We'll make it a daily announcement.
Thank you. But to answer your question, one thing I learned about young people, and I have children, I have grandchildren, is that you have to be very careful that you don't come out as if you're patronizing, especially the educated ones. I can give you an example. Of course, first of all, let me make it very clear. We have something that we call GoNigeria ambassadors, which are usually celebrities and others who want to sign on to this project, and they join in being influencers, and they put out material, usually social media and all. There have been concerts galore, where there are, but I said, let's be very careful. It's not every musician that can be politically active. Even overseas, if you look at, there are two different types of musicians. Some are politically active, some are not. And it's a big mistake for people, they say different strokes for different folks. There's nothing worse than somebody who is not politically aware, trying to drive trying to drive political consciousness. I think you've got to be that type of musician. I think recently, and I hate to mention names, but then you caused it, so I'll answer questions truthfully. Recently, I've heard Davido make comments that were political, and people went after him and so on. It looks as if he has chosen that path, that I don't care whether you abuse me or not. I'm a musician, I'm an influencer. If something is wrong in my country, I will speak out. That is a serious choice by any artist. There are some other artists that their life is not about that. Their life is about dancing, making merry, drinking, alcohol, all sorts of things. Stay in your lane is better than going across to go and make a fool of yourself. Because the young people are smart. If you're talking nonsense, they will say so immediately. And incidentally, Davido was talking sense. But I don't want to name other musicians who tried this same thing. I was at the show once. Everything was going fine. One of the popular artists, I think in the last election cycle, instead of going on to the next song, he started talking about politics, and he was talking arrant nonsense. The manager jumped up, went to him, and was almost screaming at him in front of us to abandon that nonsense and stick to the script. There's no excuse for talking nonsense. And please don't think that these things are that easy. It's very easy to cross over when you're making comments on things that you've not researched and you're talking about. When Davido was talking, he had his facts. He was talking sense. You can criticize his views, but you cannot accuse him of talking nonsense. If anything, I would say he was telling the truth.
Okay.
So he said he knew what the truth was. So what I'm telling you is that we have this program where we call them GoNigeria ambassadors. Any musician, any actor, we've had many from Nollywood. You can sign up to this, use your position and influence to communicate with the youth. But I'll end by saying one very important thing. Our strategy has been using, it's like train the trainer. It is the young people that we have sensitized and mobilized who are better at convincing other young people. So we're using young people to convince young people. People like me are not the ones to convince all the youth in Nigeria. Our job is to train some young people and then use them to amplify the messaging. They will do it better any day.
I completely agree with you in terms of public figures, entertainers, and the influence that they wield in being able to speak on political matters. We've seen, for example, Vows the Bad Guy, who's just dropped a song, Naji, that's talking about political consciousness and how very easily we can be distracted by trends as opposed to jumping on current conversations that impact us as a nation. So my final question to you would be, from your perspective, what will success look like for you in terms of the percentage of young people that will register and participate in the 2027 elections?
I think success for me, but by the way, we'll get the numbers. INEC brings out the data in terms of age groups that registered. So it is when we look at the people who registered newly and figure out what percentage of them were aged between 18 and 22. If there was a large turnout in that age bracket, for me, that's success. But please, I would answer your question by pointing out, I said GoNigeria has 24 advocates. One of them, and possibly the youngest, is Vows, the musician. So it's not just people in my age bracket. We have 24 people from different walks of life. And as you know, Vows is politically active. It's something that he has chosen. If he talks to you on this program, you will know that he has given thought to what he's saying, that he knows what he's talking about. Those are the kind of musicians that can help in this serious messaging, not the frivolous one. You have to be somebody who is deep, and Vows is deep. He is, completely.
Now, Mr. Peterside, before we wrap up this conversation, I want you to address those Nigerian youths that are disillusioned with the system and have lost hope and think, you know, the entire process is rigged, and on why it's important to register and be a part of this. You can speak directly to them and how it does affect their lives and future.
Okay, I will try. You know, if you're 18 years old now, this is your first opportunity. Please don't listen to all those elderly people who have been burnt before. You're coming of age for the first time. Your country has allowed you that you can now vote because you are 18. 4 years ago, you had no say in the matter. You were only 14. Now, let me tell you something. If you were 14 last time, 15 last time, 16, 17 last time, if those 4 age groups alone get together in your local government, in your House of Assembly election, and you all vote for one person, the chances are that he has won that election immediately because you're the majority. So forget about elderly people coming to confuse you and deceive you, telling you things like votes don't count. If votes don't count, why are they buying the votes? So you go out there, do what you have to do. In some countries, you can vote at age 16. In Nigeria, it's age 18. In some countries, it's 21. At 18 years old, 19, 20, 21, this is your election. So grab the bull by the horn and help to determine your country's future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir. I don't know if Joe has any questions.
I think it's only fair that if we have you join us here to speak about the youths, we've used a long number of minutes, as it were, to discuss that, and that's very interesting. I was also mentioned that in as much as INEC had issues on their website, the back and forth, people not being able to register, we believe that that has been rectified. But we cannot let you go without hearing your own or your 2 cents about the current situation of things in the country. I mean, you're a spokes. You always talk tough. You never hold back. We know you to do that. I'm not going to pick a particular one, but of course, the issues rising from the Senate to the hashtag Gbajagate, to the current administration, the budget, and so on. Can you just give a potpourri of every single thing that you think is going on in the country? Just to hear from you.
Sorry, first of all, let me explain why I'm laughing, because viewers would have seen me laughing. I think for the last half an hour, every other question, you guys claimed was the last question. And then you ask another.
We've enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Notice the trend. Everything is the last question. But you know, this is the World Cup season. So let me use an analogy from the World Cup, because most Nigerians understand soccer. You know, if you understand soccer, there are countries like Tunisia sacked their coach during the World Cup. They were the African countries that didn't make it to the knockout stages. They were angry. They sacked him even before they finished the group matches. So why? Because they felt the football team has failed them. If you are a French national, are you really sad about your football team? No. You're probably feeling very good, feeling very happy. Do you need to shout at the French FA or shout at anybody about to reorganize football in France? Probably no, because you probably feel everything is going fine and you might be on course to win the World Cup. I'm making a serious point here, which is that if you believe everything is going fine in your country, like the French feel today about football, then you can relax. Then you can say, let me just go and sleep. I don't have to take part. It is when you believe something is wrong in your country that you have to get off your backside and do what you need to do to bring about change. So the reason why some of us are talking is for the very reasons you mentioned. You listed so many things that are wrong in the country. You're calling all kinds of scandals and disgraceful things that happened in your country. That is the more reason why we've got to get up, or I call it the young ones to call the majority, and decide who gets to rule them in future, so that we stop hearing all this nonsense. In any case, let me take a very important issue. Where is Nigeria failing with the economy? You mentioned the economy. Where we are failing the most, it's not inflation, which is coming down slowly. It's not the exchange rate, which is largely stable. It is the large numbers of Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, that we're throwing into poverty every month. We are the poverty capital of the world. We have the largest number of poor people in any single country in the world. We've overtaken China. We've overtaken India. Sorry, years ago, they had many poor people. Guess what? They have lifted the people out of poverty. We are throwing Nigerians into poverty. And that is why it's important who governs us, what their priorities are. We want people who, when they're in office, their priorities are how to lift Nigerians out of poverty, not how to make the rich get richer. or to make the very rich even more wealthy. And the poor ones are in the majority. The 130 million of you who are out there and poor and impoverished. We want governments and governments that make it their priority to lift people out of poverty, put out safety nets, and do whatever is required to rescue millions of Nigerians.
Okay, all right. Looking at poverty as a big challenge, but I know. A lot of persons are looking forward to see what will come out of Nigeria, the common situation of things that we're faced with, especially with the poverty, like you rightly mentioned. But to crown it all up, I don't know if my colleagues have one more question.
Yes, I want to follow up from what you said about...
Just to explain that...
We're getting instructions.
I know it's saying final question,
giving us a little
but
more
they just told us to give you more time.
Yes,
I mean,
it's not every day we get to speak to someone like you, so please accommodate us. I'm glad you mentioned the Chinese example, more than 1 billion people. It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. It's been done before, and we can follow different models across the world. Vietnam too has removed quite a number of people, millions, from poverty. You're one who has cut his teeth in the private sector, and you understand what it is to have a thriving and developing economy that is all-inclusive. The current administration seems to be obsessed with a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Why is that important, and why are we not focused on developing the human beings in Nigeria? Why is that not more of a priority in terms of the number of out-of-school kids we have, removing them, in terms of reducing the amount of Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor? Or if we get to that 1 trillion economy, all these things will automatically follow. Is that how it works?
No, it doesn't work that way. You see, I'm an economist by training. You can have economic growth without poverty reduction. It's a myth to think that economic growth necessarily lifts everybody up. That only happens if the growth is inclusive and is helping to lift people out of poverty. You can actually have a situation, and we have it in Nigeria, where what you're achieving largely is the rich or the very rich are getting a lot wealthier. If that happens, GDP will grow. That's why we measure figures on poverty. So you can have the rich people getting richer because the economy is growing for them, and have many average people getting poorer because the economy is not doing anything for them. Indeed, sometimes, and I don't want to turn this to a class war, sometimes the reason why the poor are getting poorer is because the very rich are overcharging them for basic goods and services, abusing monopoly power and things like that. That is why in many countries you have regulators and people like that worrying about monopoly pricing and things. So it's not as if I'm saying that the rich are the ones making the poor get poorer. No, it is the responsibility of government to ensure that in every policy and everything you are doing, you do not allow practices that make the poor poorer to continue. Sometimes you get what you wished for. If all you ever do in government is sit around together, dishing out big contracts to rich people and getting richer and talking about how we are going to attain 1 trillion, what about talking about the things that really matter? The number of out-of-school children. We have the largest number in the world. What are we doing about that? How about the number of 130 million people that you've agreed are poor in Nigeria? What are we doing about that? Is that the priority? Is that what is being discussed every day? Or are we just talking about increasing the GDP in the whereby sometimes the very rich get richer? So I think and that's why we have politics as well. It's an opportunity for people to address these issues and decide what the priorities are and what they should be. I believe as a Nigerian today, as an economist, lifting Nigerians out of poverty should be the #1 priority.
Right, and many will agree with you, because that's one of the major complaints we hear about the quality of life that Nigerians are living. Another issue that has led to the voter apathy we see, or maybe the nonchalant attitude that some people have displayed when it comes to registration for elections, or registering rather for their PVCs, is a breach of trust between the government and the governed. And I want you to speak on how we can, remedy that breach of trust. And I'll speak to a particular instance that further highlights that. But we need to go go on a very short break. When we come back, I'll expand on that further. All right. Okay, it would seem that we can probably go ahead with that before.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let me just speak to it whilst we're sorting that break. So the breach of trust is the major concern that we hear, and we highlight that often on this show. One of the scenarios, for example, would be the president having appointed a man who is in the eye of the storm at the moment, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila. No, he is not guilty. We're not saying he is. There is a presumption of innocence. Section 36, subsection 5 of the Constitution provides for that. However, it's thrown a negative spotlight on the presidency for several reasons. It's been a line item in the budget. How did he get into the budget? How did this agency exist? Regardless of what the explanation is, it's not a good look for the current administration. Then we hear that the president appoints the implementation of State Police Committee, and Femi Gbajabiamila is chairing that committee. How does this look to the average Nigerian, to the young person who is getting involved and interested in politics? Then please speak to that and a broader perspective of how we can breach that breach of trust between the citizens and the government.
Yes, thank you for the question. You know, instead of getting drawn into what I would consider to be targeted, specifics, I would like to answer your question from a broader perspective, which is that even GoNigeria, if you look at our communication, we identified, you said breach of trust. We identified 4 pillars. It's those 4 pillars are the fundamental things in a society that make people not trust in the whole system and believe that they will get good governance. The 4 pillars are what? We need electoral reform, even more of it. We need judicial reform. We're talking about insecurity. Insecurity threatens free and fair elections. If you can't even come out safely and cast a vote without being scared for your life, then already, I mean, there's a biased outcome. 4, freedom of speech. If people cannot come out and campaign and speak freely without being arrested for saying one thing or the other. So I'm drawing attention to 4 major pillars. I repeat: electoral reform, judicial reform, insecurity, freedom of speech. You are drawing attention to specific things that have gone wrong. I put it to you that every other month, something small will go wrong. And those 2 things go wrong partly because we don't have some of these 4 pillars in place. Because if we had a proper judiciary, fewer things will go wrong. So I don't want to get lost in in today's scandal. There'll be a different scandal tomorrow. You can write it down. I'm looking at the bigger picture. And I want the youth, the young people, to focus on that bigger picture, not to be distracted by today's scandal, because there's another one tomorrow and the day after. That is the story of Nigeria for now. Is the quality of our governance overall is not good enough. I go back to the soccer analogy. The French can say their soccer is good enough. Tunisia will say it's not good enough. The quality of our governance today is not good enough. And I'm talking local government, I'm talking state government, I'm talking federal government. So that's the priority. Examples of things that are going wrong are just too many.
Right.
That's why if you notice, yeah.
And I mean, it becomes a distraction at some point. It's almost like a gossip. Or he says this, he says this. We should focus on building institutions and not strong individuals, like former President Barack Obama said. Thank you so much, Mr. Atedo Peterside.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And thanks for allowing us to go on hydration break and also, extra time.
And we're coming back to you after the 26th of July.
All the time. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. My own last word is to thank the 4 of you for giving your time to talk to me. And I would just say that I know I'm a frustrating person to interview, because you ask me a question about one thing and I talk about what I want to talk about, because I think I'm old enough to decide what I want to talk about. So I'm not saying I will never address those issues. I will address them after 26th of July.
All right.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you then. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's now tell you that President Bola Tinubu has transmitted 2 executive bills to the House of Reps, but we'll speak further on that after this break. All right, it's now time for us to connect with our correspondent in Katsina. Yesterday we began the town hall. We've been talking about it for the longest time, the announcements, we told you about them. But today let's get to speak one-on-one with our correspondent who is live in Katsina and has been bringing us updates regarding the town hall. Hello, Bernard. First of all, well done. We know that you're probably very sleep-deprived at the moment. Talk to us about your experience so far regarding the town hall, the stories that you've heard, and, you know, how everything has panned out in general.
All right, thank you, Olive. Thank you, Benga. Thank you, Joe, and always thank you for the support. Well, Katsina has been quite interesting. We came in on Monday, and in the past few days, we've been around town. We've visited certain places, visited certain people. The very first time we came on the breakfast show on Tuesday, you saw there where we spoke to certain persons who are still resident in some temporary IDP camps, you know, which is now the reality of some people, even though the government-run IDP camps have been shut down. It goes to show that there's still some people who are still carrying the weight of insurgency and insecurity. There's some people who we equally spoke to who cannot go back to their homes because they say that some of those places are still being attacked. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were at the Emir's Palace, the Emir of Katsina. We didn't meet the Emir, but we spoke with some of the chiefs. Just as we got there, some of the guests who we have invited to come and speak, or the victims who have invited to come and speak, said that they had come out of their communities, and as at that time their community was under some kind of attack. So they couldn't go back. They had to just continue the journey down here, even though it was not even time for them to come just yet. You know, so these are some of the realities we faced. Yesterday night, we were supposed to have some guests at the 9 p.m. bulletin, some people who had experienced firsthand what insecurity and insurgency is about. We couldn't have them at 9 p.m., but we had a recording that lasted late into the hours of the night. And some of the stories we heard were harrowing. We had a lady whose husband was killed. We had another lady whose children were burnt in her presence and killed. You know, she said she has stories to tell for days. And they had neighbors, they had relatives, family members. This lady said she didn't even have the chance to bury her dead. You know, and of course we equally spoke to some miners. In some ways, if you have been following the story, there's been some people who claim that there's a relationship between mining, or should I say illegal mining, in parts of the north, and insurgency and banditry that's ongoing. We spoke to some miners who spoke to us and told us about the challenges that even they have been experiencing, how some of their own colleagues have equally been taken away. And then, of course, there's a flip side to the story. Another miner did also talk about how some repentant bandits have dropped their arms and picked up wheelbarrows and decided to join them in mining activities, which is a plus, you know. So it's not all gloom and doom. At some point, it seems that there is hope, there is some glimmer of hope, you know, somewhere far away. So the conversation today is going to be, first of all, what exactly has happened in the past leading up to where we are, how people have been affected, how we can bring hope back to the communities, what is the pathway, you know, to hope and to restoration for these communities, and of course how those who have decided to drop arms can equally walk the path to restoration and to become useful to the communities again. So you see, it's a potpourri of every and anything that we can talk about that can be useful and that could be helpful to security architecture and of course to the government of the states and ultimately to the people of Katsina and Nigeria in general.
Bernard, you did meet, you and the team did meet with the Commissioner of Police for Katsina State 2 days ago. What was government presence like yesterday, and what were some of the revelations and challenges they face in, you know, securing lives in Katsina State?
Yes, we certainly did meet the Commissioner of Police, and again, you know, he mentioned geographically, we know that Katsina is quite a big state with a very interesting topography, if you want to put it that way. And this is not just a challenge of Katsina. I think it's a challenge of Nigeria. We have just a certain number of armed police officers, generally, and then we have security at large, or rather insecurity, I beg your pardon, at large in certain parts of the country and the state. And I think this largely is the challenge of securing northern Nigeria and the country in general. You know, the Commissioner of Police did mention certain measures that he's put in place, you know, certain operations that have been taking place, certain things that they've done. And just behind him there in his office, there was a chart that I could read, and each week the chart showed the kinds of crimes that they've been tackling, the different local governments where those crimes have been occurring and what they've done, the ones that have been resolved, criminals that have been apprehended. You know, it kind of showed that they have their you know, they kind of have their finger on point, basically, addressing the issues here. But of course, like Oliver Twist, they would always ask for more, more resources to tackle banditry, more resources to tackle insecurity, more resources to tackle, the issues going around in the state. And then, of course, the Commissioner of Police made mention of one thing that I think is very paramount and we'll be discussing here: community policing. Community policing now trickling down to not just the police officers and not just the security operatives, but of course the individuals in the communities. No one knows the town, no one knows the community better than the people who have lived here, who have grown up here by themselves, in the villages, in the bushes, even in the city centers. So he talked about better collaboration between the people and security architecture being one of the greatest way forward, if at all we need to talk about tackling insecurity in and around the state.
Very interesting conversations we're going to have, quite insightful, I must say, with the explanation that you've shared. Can you help our viewers to understand what time it starts and, most importantly, the number of persons we're looking to have, and maybe who's also going to be present from the government side?
All right, thank you, Joe. As usual, our town hall starts at 11 a.m. Nigerian time. We're expecting that even before then, the hall will start getting filled up with the guests that we've invited. We've invited people from far and wide, from different parts of the state, all the local governments of the state, hopefully. So we're expecting them in their hundreds. The hall should be able to take about 300 or maybe even more. So those are the numbers we're expecting. And of course, our town hall is not elitist. Our town hall is more about the people than government officials. But of course, it's an avenue to bring the policymakers, side-by-side affected people, to hear directly from them in ways that they possibly may have not heard before. So we're expecting, the executive governor, if he's around, or representatives from his quarters. We're expecting security operatives, the commissioner of police, the leaders of the 17th Big Brigade in the army. We're expecting the NSCDC. We're expecting traditional heads, traditional rulers. We're expecting community leaders as well. And particularly, we're expecting religious leaders. It's a very religious state, and we know the role and the part that religion plays in Katsina. So we're expecting religious leaders to equally join us. And of course, ultimately, we're expecting the people who have been affected. No doubt, we're even expecting to see, if possible, some repentant bandits, if they will be coming, if they want to come. We're expecting to have some of them to hear from their own side, what exactly they have to say, how the experience had been, where they were before, where they are now. These are conversations that you probably may not have heard or seen anywhere else. We expect to bring them to you first and here on News Central.
Absolutely. And we know we're always first in ensuring that Nigerians and the world have the latest stories, like they always say, which happens to be our mantra in-house, filling the polls of the people. Great job. Well done, Bernard Akede. We look forward to 11 a.m. when you will take over right there in Katsina. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We begin the news at the National Assembly, where the Senate has blocked a legislative motion seeking an urgent independent probe into the insertion of over 1.3 billion naira for a non-existent agency in the 2026 Appropriation Act. The upper chamber declined the request moved by Kano South lawmaker Kawu Smaila to launch an inquiry into the financial allocations granted to the purported Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, an entity the presidency has since disowned as completely fictitious. Presiding over the plenary session, Deputy President of the Senate, Barau Jibrin, stated that Parliament will step down its independent probe to allow anti-graft agencies finalize their criminal investigations. In a related development, the House of Representatives has launched an investigation into the controversy surrounding the alleged funding of a fictitious government agency, the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, in the 2026 budget. The matter was brought before the House by the Plateau State lawmaker Yusuf Gagdi through a motion of urgent public importance, calling on Parliament to unravel the circumstances surrounding the agency. Lawmakers subsequently set up an ad hoc committee mandated to interface with the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, the Director General of the Budget Office, and other relevant government officials. Staying in the Green Chambers, lawmakers have asked the federal government to stop the rehabilitation of terrorists in Nigeria and take urgent action to dismantle financial networks following revelations about the 2.23 trillion naira that was paid in ransom over the last 4 years. Lawmakers say weaknesses in the nation's financial intelligence system are fueling kidnapping and terrorism, warning of the risk of further financial Action Task Force grey listing. They also raised concerns over the use of point-of-sale operators, bureau-of-change operators, and cryptocurrency platforms to launder ransom payments.
Concerned that criminals and terrorist networks continue to exploit the formal and informal financial systems, including bureau-of-change operators, cryptocurrency platform, trade-based money laundering schemes to launder ransom proceeds and integrate them into legitimate economy.
Rehabilitating terrorists cannot at whatever level of influence be encouraged. But let us do our needful. Let the government do their needful by taking care of the victims of this insecurity.
The new Central Town Hall is happening in a few hours in Katsina, and attention remains on the issues driving insecurity across the state, including persistent bandit attacks and concerns over illegal mining. Despite security operations, many communities continue to face killings, abductions and displacement, disrupting farming, education and livelihoods. New Central has been speaking with victims to hear first-hand accounts of the devastating impact of years of violent attacks. Survivors are calling for stronger security measures, justice for victims and sustained government support to rebuild their lives.
In a few hours, New Central Town Hall in Katsina will commence. These are the conversations that we've been having in the past few months, and now we are bringing this conversation to Katsina, where survivors, victims, and people who are part players in this whole situation can eventually have the chance to speak to authorities and have them hear their voices. But before that, we have some of the guests here with us on stage. Some are miners, and we know that part of this conversation, miners have been involved and have been called out. We equally have persons who have been affected by the insecurities that we've seen in Katsina. My colleague here, Rukaya Jibia, is going to help me with the translation and interpretation. Thank you so much, Rukaya. We'll start from the gentleman beside you. Please ask him his name, and then we know that he's a miner. Could you ask him how mining has affected, or if mining has played a role in the insecurity situation we're seeing, in Katsina State?
Okay. My name is Sani Hamisu from Dusimma local government.
Thank you, Sani. Okay. Now, Sani, if we like to speak English, certain people have complained that part of the insecurity we're seeing in Katsina is also directly linked to mining and miners, saying that some of the miners are sponsored by people who want to fuel insecurity. Is this true? What do you know about this?
So, what I can say about what you asked me just now, I can't say miners have also bandits are taking, for instance, as you said it. All I know, we are together with them, because while we are conducting our mining, it is outskirts of town and cities. So this outskirts is where such people were living, because we know their hometown is in that places away from towns. So we are doing our mining exercise or mining activities there, very close to them. So what I can say about that, we know each other to the extent that we used to go very close to their houses, conducting our own businesses. But sincerely speaking, they are not taking, they are not sponsoring us, or we are not sponsoring. Nobody is sponsoring anybody, we and miners. In the case of that, what I can say about it, such issue of insecurity, banditry, and other insecurity challenges, it affects us miners. It seriously affects us. Why? Because we are doing our activities very close to them. So to the extent that those places happen to be no-go area. So there was a situation, or there was a time that our mining activities almost quit, to the extent that we can't do anything otherwise. We can't go very close to, we can't do anything, in fact.
Yawa ya sunanki?
Maryam Sulema.
Daga wani gari?
Ne faran kai.
To ko za ki iya gaya min abin da ya faru lokacin da 'yan bindiga suka shiga yankin ku?
Gidan Mantau. Gaskiya lokacin da suka shiga an kira sallah za a shiga masallaci.
It was nearly Subi prayer.
Da an yi alwala za a shiga, maza duk sun shiga masallaci, mata duk sun tashi sun yi alwala za su yi sallah.
We were preparing for mosque and our husbands are all in the mosque.
Sannan 'yan bindigan nan suka shiga masallaci suna ta kashe al'ummanmu, suna ta kashe mana mazaje da 'ya'ya.
They came to the mosque and they started shooting at our husbands.
Wasu sun gudu, wasu ba su gudu ba. Kwanan su ne ya kare suna ta harbin su.
Some of them died and some of them ran away.
Yaro na ya fito a firgice, ya ce in dora shi sama ya tsira. Na tuttuɗa shi kan barandan ya haye, lokacin da zai haye wai gowar da zan yi haka sun daka min tsawa, ke sako shi. Na ce ba zan sako shi ba, juyawar da zan gansu da falon mu da nan waje baki kirin kowanne da ya sharen shi da suka shigo. Hawan da zai yi sama.
They met my boy and he ran to me. He said I should help him hide. So I was trying to help him hide and they came inside the house. So when they came inside the house, they were all wearing black. I was helping him to climb up and they said I should leave him alone. I said I won't leave him alone. And then they said I have to leave him alone.
To da na dora shi sama suna kai sako suka yi mai harbi biyu, ta nike ma sun same sun kashe shi. To mijina da yaro na suna can. Aka duba da sun kashe. Suka koro mu cikin daki, suka cinna ma dakuna wuta. Da yara na guda 5. Aka tafi da su daba, ɗayan ma kwanan shi 9 da yayi. Aka yakice shi, babbar su ta goya shi Maraƙisiya da Abdullahi da Fatima da Marfu'a da Muhammad ya Arufi yayin aka tafi da su daba. Bacin sun kashe babban ɗana, sun kashe min miji, banda waɗanda suka ƙone. Wasu ma dai a yayyafa ruwa a zuba su a leda a je a kai makabarta.
After I saved him, after I helped him to climb up, they shot him twice. And when they shot him twice, they killed my husband, they killed my child, and then they went away with 5 of my kids, including a 19-month-old.
Terrible things happen in our community because some of the village communities we have nearby, they were empty. No people, no children. Some of the male and females lost their family because there is one village, one community called Sayaya. People were lost, people were killed, people were born because almost 100 people were died during the bandit period.
Su ita wannan jarabawa da aka samu ta 'yan bindiga babu inda ba ta je ba jihar Katsina gaba daya. Sai dai mu sanadiyar wannan manan da muke yi, to mu za mu ce mu ne asalin da aka samu sauki a jihar Katsina, ba mu ce 100% misali, amma an samu sauki sanadiyar wannan sana'a ta manan da muke. Kasancewar wannan sana'a da muke yi su bandit din nan, yanzu haka akwai awan da aka canza mu tunani daga bandit din sun dawo suna wannan sana'ai, wanda alhamdulillah yanzu kusan in ce a munan jihar Katsina wurare daban-daban mun bude masu suna samun abinda suke zuwa suna hidimar su wannan shine asalin da aka samu saukin fitowa ko da yaushe suna matsa mutane.
There are a lot of challenges, even though he didn't mention any. But he said, as a result of this mining that they do, many people repented from being bandits, and they now join them as miners, and they are good with their businesses. They've opened places for them, mining sites, and they are working there, earning their daily living.
There's so much to unravel, and the new Central Town Hall series will begin at 11 a.m. today in Katsina. That's all on the news at this hour. Breakfast Central continues shortly with newspaper headlines. I am Benga Aborowa.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Time to look at the front pages of the newspapers. We have the COO, Sustainable Africa Stories, Adeyemi joins us live. Bonjour, bienvenue.
Great to have you, Mr. Adeyemi. It's been quite a minute, and so many things have happened in the country since...
a whole lot.
Yeah.
While you were away, did you know that they found money inside budget that is not supposed to be there? Did you know there was a fake agency?
No.
By the way, is Sustainable Africa Stories, is it real? We need to ask now, is it real? You know, we have to be...
Good morning, viewers across the continent of Africa. And it's great to be here again today. I've missed you guys for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've missed you too. Let's go straight to The Guardian. We don't have time because we need you to really speak. So The Guardian, I love the front page of The Guardian. I love it.
You will love it.
Love it. Take a look at that. Lovely depiction, caption, story, narrative, name it. Okay, Joe, be focused. It says legal distractions, intimidation weaken opposition's 2027 contests. It puts there the INEC chairman, the NDC candidate. It also puts the SDP candidate, the ADC candidate, the incumbent, all in one place. And then, of course, they have their, yes, and then they put their logo there. That's the referee right there. NANS names 43 institutions in Nelfon double tuition scandal. Nelfon is now faced with double tuition scandal now. We're hearing that there are some institutions that are collecting and collecting and collecting. We don't understand. Is it a funnel? Ex-policemen reject PENCOM's option B to protest poor welfare. PFIPC, that's where we're going to start from, by the way. Probe divides NAS as a ADC. Atiku insists on independent inquiry. Tinubu hails Benue's industrial growth as Aliyah commends federal government's reforms. Circle, did you see that, Wade? Just by the right, we're talking about this. Circle Ventures invested Flutterwave at $3.25 billion valuation to accelerate cross-border payments. It's all about cross-border payments. Now, Senate 15-year jail term. Asset forfeiture for fake drug dealers. 15-year jail term.
How many years of jail time should they give them for certificate forgery?
We'll find that out. But let's go straight into this. We'd like you to look at the PFIPC.
It's all fake. When you say fake drug dealer,
then fake certificate.
Certificate that becomes
the certificate might not lead to loss of lives, except maybe if you're doing medicine or engineering.
Hello.
It will.
Bad policies.
But, of course, bad policies. But the immediate danger of drugs.
No, please now.
Because you're sick in the first place, and then you're taking fake drugs.
So I want to disagree with you.
And I would disagree with him too. So someone who has a fake certificate passes a bill on health that is wrong, that brings about fake drugs.
You're going too far, Ade.
But if you look at the technicalities, it's one of...
You're going too far. There's an embattled.
Well, that's only sport.
Gentlemen, there's PFIPC where they say the DG is fake. And the
agency is fake.
The money has found its way into the national budget.
1.3 billion.
Let's get your take on that.
So, what's my take on this? And it's very simple and it's very straightforward. Anybody who knows how budgets are prepared, both public sector, private sector, and budgetary allocations are approved and by the legislature, then signed off by the executive, truly understand that there's nothing that comes into the budget that those agencies are meant to be on that list They're not aware. And that's why one of the other headlines, Senate divided. That's why they are divided. Because they are aware of the fact that when they checked through the appropriation bill before it became an act, he was there. So how can something that was fake under the office of the presidency, are you with me, all of a sudden become fake? How can a man who, for the last 2 years, has been going around meeting senior dignitaries, including the man who is supposed to be investigating fraud across Nigeria? I said the man. I mean,
we saw it, the evidence is there. It's
well, so that's fine. I'm just talking about the man who is meant to be in charge of investigating all forms of fraud and financial crimes in Nigeria. Had a session with Senate committee and some of the highest offices in Nigeria, and all of a sudden, it's fake. 6 months into the financial year. So how do we even know that the budgets of 2024, 2025, this is 2026 budget, how many fraudulent agencies in quotes
have been snorking?
Well, I don't know about sneaking in, have been presented in the Budget Act. And it's just shameful when you start to throw.
By the way, there's another one seen, the Almajiri, the budget.
Oh, yes.
That's also been.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Almajiri.
The Almajiri budget for school renovation and all, that are going to build about 10 roads in Ogun State.
I mean, what's the correlation?
You're asking me. And then we are complaining that you have 20 million children out of school. I was somewhere this morning and we're talking about the Lagos State bill. Maybe I should just quickly bring that in on begging. No schools for these so-called beggars to go to. No teachers to teach them. No books to read. But you want to make it a crime. I know, and I said, and I continue to repeat for as long as I am alive, and God will give us long life. I grew up in this Lagos. When I started school in Lagos, at a point in time, I was in morning section. And then I went to afternoon sessions. And then I came back to morning sessions. In this Lagos. And the reason was simple. So that you could accommodate as many children. That was primary school. You didn't even have enough secondary schools in Lagos. But you still had to accommodate as many as possible. Why? And I give a good example. Government College Lagos had 360 children when it was opened in 1979 at Eric Moore. 180 in the morning, 180 in the afternoon. My mother taught there. My immediate senior brother was one of the first, was among the first set of children that went into Government College Lagos. Oh, by September 1980, that same Sulere had over 3,000 children in secondary schools. And then someone will say, oh, because they are begging, they are hawking. Excuse me? Which one of them did not help? And hawking wasn't a crime. It was to expose your children to the neighborhood. I hawked. People think that is a lie. I sold bread. We go and collect bread from Modupe Johnson and we sell it in the neighborhood when I was on afternoon session. So what exactly are we talking about? When you provide the right atmosphere for children to go to school, you have the teachers there. And I say it again and I say it boldly. 60-70% of the people who are in the corridors of power today were lucky to have gone to secondary school.
And beneficiaries of free education.
Exactly. Many people came from outside Lagos to get benefit. Many people came out from outside the UPN states.
The Southwest.
To get free education. Free books, free textbooks, writing materials, exercise books, teachers. This school that is LASU today started off as a teacher training just because of Jakonde and the Western states wanted to be able to bring out teachers as quickly as possible. And they were the same people that taught them. Many people, and I know, my mates, my brother's mates, my younger brother's mates, were taught by my mom. And then today you come out and speak and say, oh, you're a Lagosian. Why? Because your name sounds like this? Are there more Lagosians than people that were born in Lagos, that paid their taxes in Lagos? And it's so irritating and so... In 4 years, in 1 year, you moved from 360 children in Surulere, multiplied it by 10 in secondary schools. In secondary schools. There are so many secondary schools across Lagos. When were they founded? Many of the people who are in the corridors of power today, their schools are not more than 45 years.
Meanwhile, the population is expanding.
And we are not building new schools. And I said there, why don't you just go back to the basics? Set up an afternoon and a morning session, and then bring in teachers and bring in these books.
No.
Instead, we want to write a bill to criminalize for your own failures in putting on the proper education policy for children to go to school. Okay. Nigeria has become one of the largest countries with the poor. Nigeria has become one of the largest countries with children out of school. And these people went to school
and benefited
for free,
as well. And
benefited Nigeria's resources.
Traveled abroad, got the master's degree abroad. You
didn't need to go abroad to get a master's. Please, Joe, don't go there. They were giving, my eldest brothers went to Hilag. They were getting 50 kobo tickets to chop chicken on Sunday. They went back. What are they talking about now? It's so irritating and it pisses me off, and that's why I'm so upset. And then these same people are coming out and telling me that, it's not their fault. See, Jakonde gave every child that came into class 1, every child from 1980, a textbook and an exercise book.
Do you think?
So what have we done with them? Let me also tell you something. When the military took over in 1984, half of those books that used to be in the stores, you saw them at Ojo Elegba. Benga, correct me if I'm wrong. They were being sold.
We're selling them.
Okay. He had deals with so many of the printing presses. Oxford, you name them. Macmillan, Nelcon, Abbott were being printed in Nigeria because you had the right to it. So what is governance?
Do you think Jakonde is given enough flowers for what? Because it seems nobody has been able to.
Because the people who benefited from Jakonde, the people who benefited from Jakonde have, and I just call it.
He didn't even complete his second term.
Let me tell you one thing. Everybody's shouting about 1 million votes. There's no governor that I know in this dispensation, maybe aside from Kanu, that won 1 million votes in re-election. The only man I know, and the reason why.
Or Borno State.
Which is that one at this one's elections. Jakonde barely got into office in 1979. In 1983 in Lagos, he won 97% of the votes. Over 1 million votes. How many people were in Nigeria that were of age to vote in 1983?
Well, noted. Population not at what we have today, explosive.
And he won 1 million votes.
It goes to say, there's something I always say here, that if politicians did their work, they wouldn't need to do a lot of campaigning. The facts speak for itself.
I said he barely won the 1979 election against Adeyemi Ogunsanya. The next election in 1983, Adeyemi Ogunsanya probably didn't even win in his ward. Adeyemi Ogunsanya used to stay on Sabia Jose. That's where his house was.
You know, I was watching a documentary yesterday on Refuge Island. It's an island off the coast of the Lekki Peninsula, just there. The only building, the only school that's there that is dilapidated now, open roofs, was built by Jakonde. That's how far.
Let me tell you something. A lot of them were opening mouths now. They went to poultry sheds. That's what they used to call those schools. Inside rain, but they had blackboards, they had teachers, they had chairs, they had books, and you can't provide books for the next generation of people.
I mean, the irony is there's a Latif Jakonde leadership training course
they just had one recently
by Lagos State government. And the biggest irony is this administrator par excellence, the name of the road that is named after him is pothole ridden. It gets us to work every day.
You see, what people don't understand is this. Everybody is always shouting, Lekki Ekpe Express Road. It was built in 2 years. Number 1 Lekki Road is Seplat House. That was Maroko Sandfield. That Bosford is called what? Maroko Sandfield.
He was the one that opened the corridor.
Listen, no. Twa Carriage Road to Ekpe. It's taking us almost how many governors to extend it by 1 lane. And we have not passed Ibrahim Adesanya. Are we jokers?
Okay, let's finally let's officially open the phone lines. The phone lines are open, and if you want to drop a comment on YouTube, we're streaming live via News Central TV Live. We'll be taking comments shortly. So
before we switch away from the Guardian, just one last story, yes, because this one concerns you.
That's the one I want to take.
Because you are not, although you are not a Ugandan.
Yes.
What kind of question is
Ugandan Law Society abolishes colonial court traditions, bans bowing to judges. So Olive, if you were Ugandans, you would stroll into the court and say, hi, Judge, hi, your Lord, hi, my Lord.
No, they've changed
your Lordship.
So now...
Hi.
And I think that this conversation is important to have because first of all...
If she first banned that wig.
Unplanned. Let's come back into the studio. If you notice, myself, Joe, and Benga are looking like lawyers today. And
this is our client.
Yes.
It's our plaintiff.
You are the only lawyer on the show. There's only one.
As we are wearing that clothes. Okay, you are the only lawyer on the show. Please, tomorrow don't come for breakfast. Enter court. Leave journalism for journalists.
Leave it for us.
But just to mention that as part of the reforms in the society, Uganda has said they are banning officially referring to judges as my lord, your lordship, your ladyship. According to Benga, Oluwami. So it will now be, if you're a magistrate, I'm looking for where I saw it, Madam Magistrate, Mr.
Good. Yeah, that's how it should be.
So it's more equal. They're saying they're pushing for a system of equality, and they're saying that even in the way that you carry yourself, no more bowing in court. And we've seen this happen in different parts of. Very recently was Burkina Faso that changed to their traditional
outfits,
attire.
Yeah.
You know, I decided to look up the countries that have actually changed and rejected colonial court traditions. South Africa adopted modern robes instead of colonial wigs. Judges now wear color-coded robes, red for criminal. We do that here too. Black for civil, green for constitutional matters. Malawi formally abolished judicial wigs in 2016. Rwanda never adopted the wigs in its rebuilt post-genocide judiciary. Burkina Faso is the most recent one. President Ibrahim Traoré.
I don't even think
banned wigs
the conversation is on in Nigeria because Nigerians love their colonial masters.
No, so
they love
and this week is called to Bow Week, so I want to use this opportunity to congratulate. And you know the interesting thing, we call them the new wigs. So they are new wigs that are being admitted to power. So congratulations to them.
We look at the period of colonialism.
Wigs, are they going to wear them on their head?
Actually, so the way the procedure happens.
Yes, I understand that.
No, please let her
explain.
Officially, and that's the most emotional moment at the call to bar when they now say you may now wear your wig, because you can't wear your wig.
You may now wear your colonial wig.
Put your wig, and that's the emotional moment. People are thinking of the journey, how far. I remember that moment. All I was thinking of was, I wish my father was.
Where are you now?
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, because my father used to call me, like, he used to call me barrister. He didn't know that I would ever become one.
Wow, life.
So, my colleagues, my unlearned colleagues, I'm joking, my colleagues.
We are not learned, though.
Ordinary colleagues.
No, we know that from time immemorial.
From your perspective,
so
on the outside.
I mean, I'm for getting rid of every relish of colonialism. It was a very brutal period. And I think the only reason why Nigerians, even my dad was an Anglophile, he used to look at the period of colonialism and so many people from rose-tinted glasses. Maybe because we didn't have an armed struggle like Algeria, bloody anti-colonial war, or the Mau Mau that were put in internment camps in Kenya. That's why we think, they did us a favor. They didn't do us any favor. They stole our resources, and
they're still stealing them.
They're still stealing them. So it's not a pleasant period. So and I don't even think the MD has had that conversation, let alone to talk about implementation of colonial relics. And I also wanted to study law when I was growing up, but because of my faith, I said I only have one Lord and personal Savior. How can I go to court and be calling Lord, human being?
Oh, Lord,
yeah, my Lord. That lawyer, that justice will pursue.
Can we go?
Mr. J.
Let's move to the next paper very quickly.
Well,
let's
I
get to
think
Daily
another
Trust.
conversation, just to touch on that lightly, is the fact that maybe there are those who argue that we should now dress according to our weather. You know, for women, you're already wearing wig. The wig is hot. You're wearing the wig under your wig.
Please.
But I guess I'm not the best.
That weather is not an excuse, because you people also carry softness on your head. Normally, naturally.
No,
you go and buy expensive wigs.
But let the people
Daily Trust newspaper, please. We have just 5 minutes to go.
I like to talk about wig and handbag.
Time is gone. Let's go to Daily Trust. All prices jump. All prices jump amidst renewed U.S.-Iran hostilities. The marketers are celebrating. As it is sweet us, it go dey pain them. Plateau Assembly moves to provide pension for ex-lawmakers. Don't wait for all that before shooting terrorists, Defense Minister tells soldiers. Let's take that.
So we always need to be careful when we make statements like this. And why do I say that? Because who is a terrorist? So people are not, if armed people are not attacking you, you don't just shoot them. You call to make them ensure that they put down their arms. And when you make this kind of statements, that's, what's it called? What do you call it in war?
Prisoners of war.
No, when you kill without authority.
Extrajudicial
killing. Thank you. And we need to be very careful. And the one thing I was watching something, I think it was this morning, and when the Minister of Defense was handing over trucks to the military, and it was all over the news. And you know, I had to say this, and I need to say this. We've gotten to a country whereby what your work is now on every TV station. That's your work, to provide the assets that our military and our security operatives will use to enforce the law and provide us security. It's a 30 seconds news, even if it should be news. Because why do I even want to know that what you are supposed to have provided for the military or the security operatives have provided for them? What I need to do, or what citizens need to do, is see them, that they're in operation. And when you make this kind of statement, just shoot them. How do you know that they are bandits? How do you know they are not hostages being used as shields?
Valid.
And let's always be careful. Extrajudicial killing, I would never accept. And I don't believe in it. It's like when you say, oh, ole, and then you throw the tire on him, only to find out that you killed someone who was innocent.
It's why they say it is better for 1,000 guilty people to go scot-free than for one innocent.
And that's true, because you've just deprived an innocent man of the right to live. So let's be careful. And that statement really, it touched me when I heard it, shoot to ban. How do you know that they are bandits? So you see children that are placed in front of people because they are wearing, what's it called? Many children are used as shields. Many children have been beaten, brainwashed to go become suicide bombers. You take a child off his family, and then you put them in appalling states, and then all of a sudden, because they wear, yes, and if they are wearing a suicide bomb and you try and get them, but many times these detonations, they're not the ones who even press those things.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Are we done with that? Let me quickly run through the first.
Yeah, you can run through another
next
story.
Paper. But I'm seeing here, okay. Court remands curfew over allegations against Katsina government. Rainfall destroys over 20 houses and farmlands in Plateau. When they are not dealing with insecurity and terrorism and bandits, they are dealing with the effect of rainfall destroying houses and farmlands. Appeal court orders status quo in Ibadan school hijab case. So this is another issue. Should we? Okay, that's a very sensitive conversation. But there's been the argument about people mixing religion with education. There's the right of, okay, you are enforcing people's freedom of association and freedom to dress however they feel represents their religion, you know. But then there's the other argument saying, if you want to enforce your religious beliefs in how you present yourself, then maybe go to an institution that allows that. So we've seen two sides of the argument to that. It's quite sensitive.
And I hear those two sides of the argument. And for those who are in education, my own expectation is simple. If a child, are you with me, decides that, oh, I like this school and I want to get into it, and I have my own religious beliefs. You're not practicing your religious beliefs in those places. Are you with me?
Right.
What you're doing is that you're going to get an education. Yes, when it's time to play, you go to a place to play. But let them get an education. If they deserve it and they've gotten there, why must you insist that, no, you can't wear this, you can't wear that? And I agree on the issues of uniforms. Do you understand? To be able to differentiate schools.
Because I know someone like Benga, for example, who will make a case for like traditional worshippers. Because if an Ifa person now comes and says, "This is how we,"
and that's my point.
Dress.
That's my point.
We then
so because the child, because the child, who the parents are responsible for them in that direction, says this is the school I want to go, then you will now say, oh, okay, but if there is a uniform, then you must wear the uniform. And if your own beliefs, then you must be able to give that person the right to be able to. And this hijab, what is it? I cover my hair. What's the beret for? What's the cap for? Right. So if that's my own cap, then let me wear it. I'm not disturbing, or I'm not coming there to preach. I'm coming to get an education. So let them get it. There are children they are Christians who went to Ansaridim schools, secondary schools, notable Nigerians.
A lot of them.
And there are so many Muslims. St. Gregory's, St. Finbar's, CMS. Did it change anything? They went to get an education.
I went there, but education, it doesn't change anything.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
When did we become so, we are now holier than the Pope and more religious than the Imam? And these are people who don't even pray like the Pope or pray like the Imam.
You're right.
Some of them don't even visit these places until they want to go and say, oh, I've gone to do my ritual. I go to Vatican or I go to Mecca. How many of them were treated like that in what's it called, when they were in school? I'm here. I'm a beneficiary of Nigerian school system. I am.
Okay. I guess...
Wade, thank you very much for coming with the very... Wade really came with Kuboko and flogged a lot of people today. But we need these reminders. Our leaders need these reminders to remember where we're coming from. When we say the labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain, this is what we mean. We can't be judging out today and thinking yesterday was better than today until we get to the point as a nation where we will no longer reminisce on the good old days. Then we still have a very long way to go. As we close the curtain on today's show, we want to give a special shout out to Amazing, who's one of our producers.
Amazing Adesonya.
Amazing Adesonya. We want to say happy birthday to you. We hope you had an incredible celebration. We thank you for your immense contribution to the team and to making work move on smoothly here. As for us, we will be signing out. I should have left you with one legal maxim since we are in the law courts today.
Yeah.
Just one legal maxim. Nemo judex in Kosaswa. Repeat after me. Nemo judex in Kosaswa. A party cannot be a judge in its own case.
I'm judging this one.
That's what's happening in Nigeria. If I say Baba and you say Ngida, now you sabi.
Okay.
We'll be back tomorrow.
The eyes have it. Let's go.
Bye-bye.